welcome or welcome back to my channel. It's Alyssa, the Earbud Bookworm, and I am finally doing my October reading roundup. November was a lot. We got into cold and flu season, and I've got 3 little kids, so we just kind of were all passing stuff back and forth. Hopefully, we're all done with that. We'll see. But I would really like to get in the habit of doing these reading roundups earlier in the month following when I read the books, because it's been so long. There are a few of these books I don't even remember. So also, I didn't do this for November, but going forward, I think I'm going to make notes as I read so that I have a better idea of what I want to say in my reading roundups. So without further ado, let's get started. The first book that I read in October was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, which is the pen name for Ursula Vernon. It's a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe. And since I listen to audiobooks, I'm also going to include who narrated these. So the narrator was Avi Roque. They're a Latine, non-binary actor from the show Owl House, which I've never seen, but it's really popular. And I gave this book 5 stars. I just started using Storygraph in November. So all of these are from Goodreads, which means I can only do full star ratings. So again, going forward, it's going to be a little bit more nuanced, but I gave this book 5 stars. It was a relatively short novel. I think it would probably be classified as a novella. It was about a 5-hour audiobook. It was really good. I really liked it. It follows a retired soldier, Alex Easton, who is visiting their childhood friend, Madeline Usher, and she's sick. She's dying. And it's got a lot of really rich visuals in it. The write-up says, let's see here, what they find, because Alex as a character is also non-binary, what they find is a nightmare of fungal growths and possessed wildlife surrounding a dark, pulsing lake. Madeline sleepwalks and speaks in strange voices at night, and her brother Roderick is consumed with a mysterious malady of the nerves. So it's really, if you've ever read Fall of the House of Usher, it does have the same base storyline, but there's so much different. There's so much more to it, and it takes place in this different reality. That's about all I'm going to say on that, but it's a really good book, and I absolutely suggest it. And because it is so short, it's not a huge time commitment to read it. Right, the second book I read was called All the Dangerous Things by Stacey Willingham. It was narrated by Carissa Vacker, and I gave it 5 stars, but I made a note for myself that says, is this accurate? Because I forgot the book already. If you had asked me to name the books that I read in October, I would not have remembered this one, and it's not even been 2 full months since I read it. Once I reread the write-up, I did remember it, and I do remember really liking it, but it was clearly not a super memorable book, for me at least. The write-up for this one is, 1 year ago, Isabella Drake's life changed forever. Her toddler son Mason was taken out of his crib in the middle of the night, while she and her husband were asleep in the next room. With little evidence and few leads for the police to chase, the case quickly went cold. However, Isabel cannot rest until Mason is returned to her, literally. There's more to the write-up, but the basic gist is this woman has, her son is gone, which as a mom, that was terrifying for me. So like I say, once I reread the write-up, I remembered, and I remember having like a visceral feeling when I first started the book and was reading about this boy being taken. And she is making the true crime circuit to try and piece things together herself, because she doesn't trust that the cops are doing their job to try and find her son, and she's worried that they gave up on him. So, hey baby. My daughter's actually right next to me, my little baby girl, while I'm filming this, so she might make some noise. But yeah, so that was a good book. Like I say, I gave it 5 stars. I don't know if that's a fully accurate rating, but it was a really good book, and I definitely suggest it if you like true crime. What's the other, like, what's it called? The suburban thrillers, that kind of thing, where it follows like a, stereotypical housewife kind of thing. It was a good book. It was a good book. If you are a parent and you do worry about your kids, it might be a tough read, but I did enjoy it. There's definitely some trigger warnings on that one. There were some trigger warnings on the first one too. So definitely, if you have trouble with triggers, I would strongly suggest pretty much any of the books that I read. I would suggest looking them up if you're worried, because I tend to read a lot of books that can be very triggering. The third book I read was called The Locked Door by Frida McFadden. I kind of went on a Frida McFadden kick. The first couple of books of hers that I read, I gave 5 stars because they were just so different than a lot of the other mystery type books that I read, mystery thrillers. And it had the same kind of formula, but it was like different, to where the first couple of books I read of hers, I did not figure out the ending, and that is huge for me. However, The Locked Door was, I think, maybe the third or fourth Frida McFadden that I read. I gave it 4 stars. It was narrated by Shayna Somerville. And yeah, I gave it 4 stars. And if I had been on Storygraph and could do more nuanced, I probably would have done like 3.5 maybe. It was still a good book, but I figured out the ending. I figured out the ending fairly early on too. So there were pieces of the ending that I didn't quite figure out. There were just like little bits that I didn't figure out, but I figured out most of it. So that's why I didn't get a higher rating from me. So this one, I'm not going to read the whole write-up, but it says, some doors are locked for a reason. While 11-year-old Nora Davis was up in her bedroom doing homework, she had no idea her father was killing women in the basement. So that kind of just gives you, there's more to the write-up, but I don't like to read the whole thing. I tend to not read the full write-up before I read a book. I often pick books either from other people's suggestions, or I'll just like pick randomly about like what's available, or I'll pick a book that I liked and in Libby I'll click similar to. So I didn't read the write-up before that I read this. But the book follows Nora Davis, who is the daughter of a serial killer. And you're not following the mystery of the serial killer part, because she's an adult now and he is in jail. But now there are new things coming up that kind of bring a lot of things into question. So we're following her as she is dealing with the repercussions of her father's actions, and possibly someone else. So that was a good book. Like I say, it wasn't great. I did figure out the ending, but it was a fun read. I did enjoy it. I know a lot of people give Frida McFadden some hate because she has some weird ways of writing, like she uses some hyperboles a lot and stuff like that, but I don't have an issue with her writing so much. I don't know. My husband says that I'm an easy rater. I tend to give 4s and 5s really easily, so I don't know. There's probably some accuracy to that. And then kind of switching gears, the 4th book I read was Slammed by Colleen Hoover. I know a lot of people are like super all about Colleen Hoover, and I have a weird thing with some authors. I don't do it with everybody. Like I didn't do it with Frida McFadden, but some authors I really like to start their bibliography at the beginning and just kind of like work my way through. And this was the first one that was published, as far as I could tell. It was narrated by Heidi Baker. I gave it 4 stars. It was pretty cute. It wasn't the kind of book that I usually read for the most part, because I do really tend to read thrillers, horror, mystery, stuff like that. But it was a pretty cute book. It follows an 18-year-old girl. She's a high school senior, and she just moved to a new place, and she met her next-door neighbor who's 21. So, they're both adults, and they kind of start having a flirtationship, I guess you would call it. And then things get a little bit weird because of what his profession is. I'll leave it at that for now. If you want to read it, you should. Like I say, it's a cute book. It's the reason it's called Slammed is because there's slam poetry involved in the book. And yeah, it was cute. I didn't love it. It's not one that I'm going to go out and be like, oh my gosh, you should read this. But it was cute. It was cute. If you like cute, like young adult romance, I think you'd probably enjoy that. The 5th book that I read is called What Kind of Mother by Clay McLeod Chapman. It was narrated by Megan Tussing and Joe Hempel. I didn't write down pronunciations for all of the narrators or authors, so hopefully I got that right. It might be Megan Tussing. But anyway, this is one that actually my husband is reading right now, at my suggestion. I gave it 4 stars. It would have been 5, but it was one of those books that had an epilogue that I think was completely unnecessary, and for me that brings it down. If I could have done a more nuanced one, I probably would have done like 4.5, maybe even 4.75, but that epilogue really it dropped it for me. So this one, this is one of those where I went into it with absolutely zero knowledge. I picked it based on the title and the cover, and I thought it was going to be a suburban thriller. I was wrong. It was actually a horror book, that's more what my husband reads. Is he's more horror based, whereas I'm more like thriller mystery. And I do like horror, but thriller mystery is kind of like my wheelhouse. So this one is about I'll just read. I think this one, yeah, I'll read the whole write up on this one. This is the write-up from Goodreads, which is probably also what's on the back of the book if you buy a physical copy. After striking out on her own as a teen mom, Maddie Price is forced to return to her hometown of Brandywine, Virginia, with her 17-year-old daughter. With nothing to her name, she scrapes together a living as a palm reader at the local farmer's market. It's there that she connects with old high school flame Henry McCabe, now a reclusive local fisherman whose infant son Skylar went missing 5 years ago. Everyone in town is sure Skylar is dead, but when Maddie reads Henry's palm, she's haunted by strange and disturbing visions that suggest otherwise. As she follows the thread of these visions, Maddie discovers a terrifying nightmare waiting at the center of the labyrinth, and it's coming for everyone she holds dear. So, like I said, this was a horror book. I did not realize that going in, but also, much like with All the Dangerous Things, this one has a huge trigger warning for child endangerment and stuff like that. So if that's something that you struggle with, I would not read it. My husband has had to set it down and pick it back up a few times because he's been triggered. I did let him know when I read it that he might have some issues with it, but I told him it was still a really good book and he should try to read it if he felt up to it. That's one for sure that I would suggest to people to read. Like, if you like horror books, if you like thriller books, read that book. It's really good. The sixth book that I read in October was The Coworker by Frida McFadden, so another Frida McFadden book. I think there's like 2 or 3 in a row here. And it was narrated by Alison Krawchuk. This one I gave 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. Hi, baby girl. Look at you rolling over. Look at you rolling over. I gave this one 5 stars. It was a really good book. This one, I did figure out the ending fairly early on. So, but I don't necessarily take points off for that. Like, bring down star rating for that. So, I still gave it 5 stars. It was interesting. One of the characters was autistic. I don't remember if she ever specifically said that, but I could tell. That is, I am fairly certain that I'm autistic. I don't have a diagnosis. But 2 of my kids are autistic. And it made me realize that I probably am too. So I thought it was interesting that there was a character in this book that was autistic. And like I say, I don't think she ever comes out and says it, which actually to me makes it even better, where it's like, it's just kind of like an incidental thing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. The book follows a woman who has realized that her coworker is missing. So she is like, this woman is very punctual. She is very predictable. And hi, girly. And she didn't come into work today, and this is not like her. And so the woman that is not missing, takes it upon herself to kind of start investigating what's going on. And it's, like I say, I did figure out the ending, but I didn't figure out super early on, and there were a couple of twists in there that I didn't expect coming, even though I know that Frida McFadden books are very twisty, and I'm constantly, like, looking for the twist. So I really liked it. It was a good book, and I would suggest it, especially if you're not sure if you might like Frida McFadden books or not, because, like I say, there is a lot of Frida McFadden hate. This might be one to try and see if you like it, because it is one of the ones that I liked more than some of her others. So yeah, there's 3 in a row here. I apparently went on a really big Frida McFadden kick. So the 7th book that I read was Never Lie by Frida McFadden. This one was narrated by Leslie Howard. This one I gave 4 stars. It just wasn't quite as good. It didn't hold my attention quite as well, but I still really enjoyed it. It follows newlyweds Trisha and Ethan. They're searching for the house of their dreams, and they are visiting a remote manor to check it out, to see if they want to buy it. And it once belonged to a renowned psychiatrist who vanished. But it's a snowstorm, and so now they're stuck there. And so they're kind of like discovering some of the mysteries there and kind of trying to piece things together about what might have happened to this woman that had disappeared a couple of years prior. So that one was pretty good. I enjoyed it. The 8th book I read was The Wife Upstairs by Frida McFadden, narrated by Angie Kane. This one I only gave 3 stars. And let me tell you why. Last year I read a different book by the same name by a different author, and it was very similar. They were very similar books, and I don't think I gave that one very high stars either. I might have given it 4. I can't remember. I'd have to go back and look. But I just feel like, I don't know, it was one of those where it was like very tropey. It was, which I think is one reason why a lot of people don't like Frida McFadden, is because she does do a lot of tropes. And that's okay. And obviously I like a lot of her other books, but this one just hit me weird. I didn't love it. But I still gave it 3 stars because I didn't hate it either. So, and that's kind of where, that's like my husband says that I'm like an easy rater. So, if I don't hate a book, if there's not a piece in it that I absolutely just hate, I'll usually give it at least 3 stars. I have to really dislike parts of it to give it a 2, and I have to absolutely abhor it to give it a 1. You're not going to see many 1s and 2s from me on this channel, and if you're looking for somebody that's super critical, that's not me. Oops, sorry, I just shook the whole camera. But yeah, so this book, let's see, was Victoria Barnett Has It All. I'm just going to read the description for or the write-up for this one. A great career, a handsome and loving husband, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and a plan to fill it with children. Life is perfect, or so it seems. Then she has a terrible accident and everything falls apart. Now Victoria is unable to walk. She can't feed or dress herself. She can't even speak. She is confined to the top floor of her house with 24-hour care. Sylvia Robinson is hired by Victoria's husband to help care for her, but it turns out Victoria isn't as impaired as Sylvia was led to believe. There's a story Victoria desperately wants to tell if only she could get the words out. Then Sylvia discovers Victoria's diary hidden away in a drawer, and what's inside is shocking. Except, like, honestly, it wasn't that shocking, which is, like I say, why I gave it 3 stars. It just wasn't a great book. All right, and then the 9th and final book that I read in October was called The Quiet Tenant by Clémence Michelon. And it was narrated by a long list of people. I will go ahead and read them because I'm going to read the narrators. The narrators were Jilly Messer. I think it was Jilly. It might be Gilly. Elena Ray, Valerie Rose Lohman, Amber Battaglia, Reba Burr, Clemence Michelon. So the author was one of the narrators. Jess Nahikian, Ore Nash, Millie Sanders, Sarah Shakelis, and Yuli Alice Shin. Again, I wish I had written down the pronunciations because I feel like I botched a lot of those, but there you have it. This one I actually read for my book club that I'm a part of, and we're going to be discussing it at our December get-together if I can make it. I gave it 4 stars. It was a good book. It wasn't a great book. So it's one of those where it's about a serial killer, about this man that has a woman trapped in a shed, and there's no mystery. You know exactly who it is from the beginning. What you don't know is how all of his pieces of his life are going to fit together. So we are following his daughter. We're following the woman that he has trapped in his shed. And we are following a woman that he sees out in his community who might have some really big feelings for him. So you're kind of following all of these people. One thing that I thought was a really bold choice by the author was the fact that the parts that are told from the perspective of the woman that he has trapped are told in second person perspective. And you don't see that very often in novels. So I thought that was a very bold choice, and I actually enjoyed it. A lot of people were critical of it. I saw one person on Goodreads had an issue with the way that she described a very specific moment, and it just seemed like really over the top. But when you take into consideration what this character's been through, I feel like it made sense. I liked the choice that the author made there. But again, I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't like oh my gosh, go out and read this right now. But it was very enjoyable. If you like thrillers, if you like serial killer stuff, I would definitely suggest it. So there you have it. Those are my October reads, and I will be back hopefully a lot sooner to do my November roundup. So thanks for stopping by, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Bye, y'all.